Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. What the slump yesterday is. The slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all.
These losses stay with me. They fester, Jerry.
What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you. Toadstool Sports. It is Thursday, March 19th, the official start of the actual tournament, the first round of the tournament, the NCAAB tournament, one of the biggest days in sports. Horrible day yesterday. 1-3. It probably should have been better than that. St. Louis was in a close game in hockey there, tied game towards the end of the game, and they lost in overtime. Shootout, actually, I think is what it was. Philadelphia got us the one win last night in hockey. As an underdog, they went into overtime. They were never losing the game. They were winning 2-0, blew it, and then they were able to get the win in overtime. So obviously we'll take that. That was the right side. And then the NBA games, we just got completely caught by teams that just couldn't miss. Chicago, I guess you could kind of make the argument that they're just not putting in enough effort. Houston, dude, the Lakers could not miss at all. The Lakers shot like over 60% from the field. They hit almost half of their three-pointers. Like, what can you even do about that? It's ridiculous. Houston, just looking at the normal statistics in the game, Houston should have won the game. And they had the lead. It looked like they were going to finally take over at the end of the game. Still no. They lose the game. I'm pissed about that. We're going to move on to today. We're going to do college basketball. I'm going to have 2 plays in college basketball. Hopefully we can hit those right. And then one hockey play, and I'm skipping NBA, which has been an absolute disaster coming down the stretch here. It's been absolutely horrible. We're going to hopefully get it all back in the NBA playoffs because my NBA playoffs usually go really well for me. I should just completely skip March, to be honest. This is 2 years in a row where March has been an absolute disaster, although last year's was definitely worse. But still, this is ridiculous. We got to turn it around starting tonight, or starting today, I guess I should say, because one of the plays is kind of an afternoon play. I don't have anything in the really early games here. Well, the games don't start until afternoon, but East Coast, but you know. What else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Dude, yeah, Miami, Ohio, whatever. Everybody lifting them up, they couldn't miss any three-pointer they were taking last night. They hit like 60% of their threes. It's absolutely ridiculous. They hit the most threes that they've hit in a game this year. They got to play in Ohio. Their huge crowd was there. SMU lied to the committee about B.J. Edwards supposedly being back. He's like their third or second best player. He wasn't back, obviously. He didn't play, so they actually lied to the committee so that they could still get into the tournament. Dude, they should have been out. Auburn should have been in. Then it would have been that matchup in that game last night. Like, okay, let's see who wins. Although I guess they couldn't have done that because Auburn couldn't play Tennessee in the first round, but I don't know. Whatever it is, like Auburn should have been in, SMU should have been out. That's pretty clear. SMU is just awful. They're such a joke, dude. And again, lying to the committee that one of your best players is there when he actually isn't. That's awesome. Let's get into today. college basketball, go check out my bracket special that I did last night if you want to see that. I don't know if I'm going to change anything, to be honest. I think I might just leave it. So you can go check that out. Did it last night. Yeah, let's do this. College basketball. We'll go in order of all the games. I guess the first game up is a really hard game to predict, I think. TCU and Ohio State in the 8-9 matchup in Greenville, South Carolina. The winner of this is going to play Duke, assuming that Duke wins. So no location edge here for this game. Both these teams ended the season on a good, I would say they ended on a pretty good note, although Ohio State, they played tough in their last game against Michigan, so you could make the argument they're a little bit flat coming out of that. TCU, kind of similar, though, because they almost beat Kansas in the Big 12 tournament. So similar situations here. Both these teams played really well towards the end of the season. They're both teams that I thought were like play on in the tournament, and they're both playing each other right away. So that's awesome. One thing that I will point out in these tournament games is these are new sites that these teams have to go to. So a lot of times you do want to look towards unders, maybe in the first half specifically, because the teams have to get used to the new sight lines in these venues they're not familiar with, so the shooting might not be there right away. So that's just one general tip. And then the other general tip I think I will say is I do tend to like to fade teams that looked really good at the end of the season, like teams that may have like won their conference tournament that didn't actually need to, that may have overextended themselves a little bit. Maybe they look a little bit too good. Whereas then I kind of like to play on certain teams that we know are good that had a bad exit from their tournaments in like the first round I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Like these teams that have bad exits in conference tournaments actually don't have a good history as far as winning championships, but they do tend to do well. If they're a good team, they tend to do well in the first game of the tournament. That doesn't really apply here, but I'm just, going over all the general rules here. This is not going to be one of my plays. This is a really hard game to predict. I have Ohio State in my bracket. They're up to 2.5, teetering on 3 here. Money looks like it's slightly on TCU. 58% of tickets, 62% of the cash on them. Ohio State, they've been like a top 20-something team down the stretch, really, in the last, month or so. Although TCU not really that far behind either. Like, they've both been big movers up in the KenPom rankings. I don't know what else I have to say about this, really. Ohio State definitely has the better offense here. TCU is the better defense at getting points if you really think that is the way that you want to look there. I'm going to slightly lean towards Ohio State here, but this one is one of the most difficult games to predict for me. I don't really have a good angle on it at all. I think whoever wins this game could actually give Duke a pretty strong effort. And I don't think they're going to beat Duke, but, I think they could give them a decent effort in the next game. Excuse me. All right. Second game that's going to start is Troy and Nebraska, which is being played in Oklahoma City. So the location is a little bit better for Nebraska there. They won't be playing that far away from home. Nebraska coming back in from playing in Kansas City, so they're staying in the area pretty much. Whereas TCU and Ohio State, no advantage in that one. They just have to both travel to South Carolina. TCU going there from Kansas City. I assume these schools didn't go back home, but who knows? And then Ohio State was in Chicago for their tournament. Anyway, Troy is coming in from, I believe, Alabama. I mean, that's where Troy is, but I think their conference tournament. Oh, no, their conference tournament was in Pensacola, I think. Yeah, whatever it was. Somewhere close to Alabama. Troy is an interesting team because they don't do anything that badly. Like, they're a pretty balanced team. They didn't really get tested in the Sun Belt tournament at all because the best teams got knocked out, and Troy wound up having to face 2 teams that played a lot of games in the tournament already. But Troy did step up well when they faced better teams this year. They beat San Diego State, I think, on the road this year. They almost beat USC, which I think might have been in Hawaii or something. And then they killed Akron in the Max Sun Belt event that they had there, although that was at Troy. But still, those were good results for Troy there. Nebraska, it's an interesting scenario because I think the pressure is going to be on Nebraska because Everybody knows they're the only power conference team that hasn't won a tournament game in program history. So I think the pressure will be on Nebraska, maybe a little bit too much here. Yeah, I think they're going to win. They should win the game. They're down to 13.5 here. Some of the money coming in on Troy, 65% of tickets, 68% of the cash on Troy. I would lean to taking the points with Troy. Nebraska, their defense might win the day here, and if that's the case, I am not sure they're really going to cover this number. I mean, these teams, like Nebraska is going to slow the game down. Troy is not a fast-paced team either, and Nebraska focuses more on defense, and they don't score that well. They're a bit high variance because they do take a lot of threes, but they have a lot of slow possession. So even though a high percentage of their shots are three-pointers, they don't actually take a ton of shots in general, if that makes sense. So that makes it a little bit more difficult with the style they play to cover a number like that. So I think I would take the points with Troy in that game. South Florida and Louisville in Buffalo, New York, so no relocation edge there. South Florida having to come up from wherever the hell their tournament was, the American. I forget where the American tournament even was, somewhere down south, I think. And then Louisville coming in from North Carolina, I think is where their tournament was. Louisville, they did exactly what you expected them to do in their conference tournament. They beat, I think, did they beat SMU? I forget. They beat a team they were supposed to beat, and then they lost to a team they were supposed to lose to. They lost to, I don't even remember. I could look, I guess. Let me see. Yeah, they beat SMU, and then they lost to Miami. They played pretty well against Miami, though. I mean, this Louisville team, you look at a lot of their losses, close loss on the road to Clemson, close loss on the road to North Carolina. They got killed by Duke on the road, but whatever. They lost at SMU. I mean, unfamiliar venue. They had some wins in here. They're pretty good, killing NC State, beating Miami on the road. They had a loss at home to Virginia, at home to Duke. Those are good teams, too. So Louisville, they basically beat who they're supposed to beat, and they lose to who they're supposed to lose to. You know what I mean? So I actually think Louisville should win this game, although we know their best player is out. Mikal Brown Jr. is not going to play the game for Louisville here, but again, Louisville, they've played well against the lesser teams that they played this year. I know South Florida is probably, I think they're the best mid-major in the tournament, but everybody is picking them, man. And yeah, they ran through the American. Yeah, they're an interesting team. They got some size. They definitely have talent. They play kind of a, havoc type of style where they play fast and they try to turn you over and get baskets in transition and stuff like that. I don't know if they match up that well against a team that's just going to jack up a ton of threes like Louisville. But then, of course, Louisville is going to have to be hitting their shots to win the game. That's always the case with Louisville. They're really hard to predict. South Florida, I think they're the most public underdog in the tournament, though. At least here in the first round, 84% of the tickets and only 82% of the cash on them. Everyone is picking them, so I'm going to zag that, and I'm going to lean towards Louisville here. If I was going to play the game, I'd probably lay the points in that one, but that one's not a strong enough opinion for me either. Dirty Sock, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. All right, then next game up after that, High Point in Wisconsin having to play in Portland, Oregon, which is... it's not an advantageous venue to either team, although Wisconsin did play in this area of the country this year because the Big Ten spreads across the country now. And yeah, Wisconsin lost at Oregon. It was kind of a weird spot, but I think the travel will have less of an impact on Wisconsin because they've done it this year. High Point coming out of wherever they are, North Carolina or whatever, maybe going to be a little bit weirder of a travel spot here. High Point, people remember them. They were a trendy underdog pick last year in the tournament. That was their first tournament appearance in program history. They lost and failed to cover against Purdue last year. Now, Wisconsin is not the same type of thing as Purdue. Purdue slows the game down, but they play really good offense. The thing about High Point is they're not very good on defense. They play fast. Wisconsin also plays fast, but I still think that's not a good matchup for High Point when they're running into basically a team that does what they do but is better at it, which is pretty much Wisconsin. Wisconsin is pretty high variance, though, that they take a ton of threes. So that's one thing. They're going to need to be hitting their threes to win games, I think they should win this game. Covering, maybe is a different story here. Wisconsin looks like they should get Noah Winter back for this game. He's their big man who missed a couple of games towards the end of the season. One thing I don't like about Wisconsin is their last game they played, they almost beat Michigan in the Big Ten tournament in the semifinals. So when the last time we saw a team, they were stepping up in class and playing that well. And, Wisconsin did beat Michigan on the road this year too, which is a really, really good win. But, there is the potential that it could be a little bit of a flat spot for Wisconsin, having that being their last game that they played, almost beating Michigan again. High Point has more rest because they won the Big South earlier than that a while back. It's an interesting game. I think we're going to see a lot of points probably in this one, even though, the money's coming in on the under. And again, a lot of times the unders are the way to look in these first tournament games, because the thing about the first tournament games, not only that the venue is new to these teams, so they don't have the sight lines. They're not used to the sight lines yet. But the other thing about it is these teams are coming in off of not having played for a while, right? So that can make the offense a little bit rustier. So that's another reason why the unders in the first halves are good in these first games. And then the overs can come in a little bit more 2 days from now when teams are on a short turnaround time and they're a little bit more tired, This game, it's really, really difficult to predict. Wisconsin's a 10-point favorite. They opened 11.5, so it went down a little bit. 52% of tickets, 53% of the cash on Wisconsin. I would slightly lean towards taking the points with High Point, but I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. And usually if it's a high-scoring game, that means the favorite has more of an ability to cover and at least, come through and potentially win the game. I think Wisconsin should win the game at the very least, but covering, I would actually kind of lean the other way there. High Point, though, I don't think they have that many players back from last year's team, so that's the other thing. And people are going to remember, they're back, So there's that, experience factor, but the coach from last year isn't there anymore, although he handed the reins over to the next guy in line. Some of the personnel is different, though. The players are a bit different, so it's not really the same High Point team. But again, both these teams are very offense-oriented, so that's just another thing we got to keep in mind here in this game. Wisconsin is obviously the better team, though. They're both similar style teams. So, the only reason I would really lean against Wisconsin slightly as far as covering is the fact that they're coming off that Michigan game. All right. Back in Greenville, South Carolina, Duke gets sort of a home-ish advantage. They're not going to lose to Siena. Now, we don't know if Ngungba is going to be back for Duke here, their big man. We do know that Foster, their guard, is not coming back. Don't know when or if he's going to come back at all during the tournament. But they may have Ngungba back, and I think it'll be smart for Duke to just get him in this game and play him a little bit in this game, because obviously they could beat Siena without him. Siena, the winners of the MAAC. Siena, they're an all right team, but they're not going to match up against Duke. Now, covering might be a different story, though. You're asking Duke to cover a 27-point favorite here. The total's really low in the 130s, which means it's going to be more difficult to cover a number like this. 60% of tickets, 64% of the cash on Duke. Duke, really good team. They're one of the best teams in the country. We know this. They play slow, though, and the question is, do they really have that much of an incentive to really blow Siena out? I don't really see it, it might be a situation where it's like, we got to get healthy, get in, get out, you know what I mean? Let's beat this Siena team, move on, focus on the next game. So I would probably lean towards taking the points with Siena in that one, but that's probably the game. It's one of the games I'd be the least interested in actually putting money on, though. I just wouldn't want to do it, Duke might build up a big lead, and then they might just take their foot off the gas towards the end. But the problem with that, with wanting Siena to backdoor cover that thing, is they don't take a lot of threes, whatever. So Siena doesn't really have, comeback potential. So that's one concern with asking Siena to cover that if they do happen to fall behind by that margin. They may not be able to come back. Although maybe Duke could take their foot off the gas at the end. So that's a 16-1 matchup. High Point, Wisconsin was a 12-5. South Florida, Louisville, 11-6. Troy, Nebraska, 13-4. All right, the next up, another 12-5 in the East region in Oklahoma City. McNeese and Vandy, the winner of which will play the winner of the Nebraska-Troy game. McNeese, people are familiar with them because of Amir Khan, Aura. He's back with them after I think he went along with Will Wade to NC State and then probably was like, this team sucks. And now I'm going back to McNeese. I don't know, but he's back there now. Everybody remembers McNeese last year. They beat Clemson. The problem is Clemson is not Vanderbilt. Clemson, they're a slow-paced team. McNeese also kind of wants to go slow and create havoc and turn you over and stuff. McNeese got the lead in that game, and they were able to hold on to it for the win. If they fall behind against a team that plays way better offense like Vandy, they could shoot, dude, and McNeese cannot shoot. Clemson, not that good at that either. So Vandy, they're going to try to run it up-tempo. They're going to score a lot, and if Vandy does have the lead, McNeese doesn't really have the ability to come back, and that's kind of the problem I would have with McNeese here. Now, Vandy, they did tire themselves out a little bit, I think, in the SEC tournament. They ran all the way to the final. I wound up losing the final, so you could argue there's a little bit of a hangover effect there. I don't know if you could argue the location here is a little bit better for McNeese because they're a Louisiana school, so maybe not that much of an edge there. If McNeese is able to keep this game close pretty much the whole way, then they could definitely cover. I mean, by definition, they would cover. The problem is, will Vandy be able to get a decent lead in the game is really the question here. Vandy's up to a 12-point favorite. 62% of tickets on them, 52% of the cash on McNeese, though. So the money's indicating on McNeese. The total is fairly low in the 140s, which kind of indicates that maybe it will be a little bit of a lower-scoring game. I guess I'll agree with taking the points with McNeese, but I don't really have that strong of an opinion on it. Vandy is an undervalued 5 seed. They're an underseeded 5 seed. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. Like, they should probably be like a 4 seed probably. I think they're the best 5 seed in the field, but McNeese is also a pretty solid team. Yeah, it's difficult to figure the game out. McNeese, again, their weakness is shooting, though, so it's all going to depend on whether or not Vandy is able to build a decent enough lead that McNeese won't be able to come back. You know what I mean? All right, then we have a 14-3 matchup, North Dakota State and Michigan State. I actually think North Dakota State is the best of the 14 seeds probably, and I think they actually match up okay against Michigan State because North Dakota State, they're a balanced team. They're decent. They take some threes. They hit threes. They can rebound okay. And Michigan State allows threes, so that's, the matchup is not the best for Michigan State here. Although I do think Michigan State's going to come out with intensity here because they did lose in the Big Ten tournament. I gave out a winner on it on UCLA in that tournament game. Michigan State was coming into that game cold. They didn't have a good game. So teams like that usually do play well in the first game of the tournament. North Dakota State winning the Summit a while ago. We'll have some rest as well, but Michigan State's not going to be tired here either. Michigan State's a 16-point favorite, but the other problem with asking Michigan State to cover a large number like this is they play slow and they're more of a defensive team, so they don't cover big numbers like this as often as they fail to do so. 64% of tickets, 63% of the cash on Michigan State. Total low in the 140s. I would probably lean towards North Dakota State in that game, plus the points there. Kind of a close call, but that's probably the way I would lean. That game is in Buffalo, New York. As we get into the afternoon slate of games here. Next up will be one best bet that I have here. All right. This one, dude, nobody likes this one. Like, I haven't heard any professionals say they like this one. I've heard absolutely nobody saying it, so I'm on a complete island here. Playing the team from the islands, Hawaii, plus 15.5 against Arkansas. Now, people have talked about how Hawaii's not going to match up well here because they play ISO defense, which basically means that they don't double team players. Like, they don't shift, so it's a lot of like man-to-man type of stuff. And people are basically saying, well, that means Acuff, who's really, really good, the best player on Arkansas, he should just kind of shred Hawaii if that's the case. But I don't know, man. I mean, Hawaii might change something up for that reason. You never know. And Hawaii is a good defense. That's the one thing Hawaii has going for them is they're the better believe it or not, they're the better defense in this game getting points. So I actually kind of like that. This game is in Portland, Oregon, and I actually think the location is going to benefit Hawaii because Hawaii just played their conference tournament in the Big West in Vegas, and you would have to imagine they did not go back to Hawaii, right? Because once you win your conference tournament, you know you're going to play in the NCAA tournament. You know you're going somewhere in the U.S., so why would you go back to Hawaii, right? You're gonna be somewhere on the mainland. So my guess would be that Hawaii stayed in that area, and now they're just staying in the same time zone, whereas Arkansas is going to have to travel in here from Nashville. So the spot's a little bit weird. Arkansas looked really good in the SEC tournament, ran through the SEC tournament. Really, who did they have to face in the SEC? Like, I'm not going to tell you that Arkansas is not good. They are. But I think people are kind of overrating them a little bit right now, even though I know Acuff is going to be an NBA player. I know they have Calipari. Super, talented team. Yeah, I'm not going to deny any of that. But they beat Vandy. Vandy's good. They looked really good in that game, but Arkansas got to avoid Florida in that tournament. And the other games they won, they beat Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma almost made the tournament and were hot, but that was, a close game for Arkansas. And that was it, I think. That's what they did. And did they win one more game in the tournament? I forget. But yeah, the best team they beat in the SEC tournament was Vandy, but they won the SEC, so they look good. I think that's going to overvalue them a little bit for that reason. That plus the travel spot, plus the fact that Hawaii has the better defense. Now, Hawaii, they have a really good three-point defense, although that doesn't come into play that much here because Arkansas doesn't take a ton of threes, but it might still help. Yeah, I mean, it seems very, very, very weird, but yeah, we're going to go with a Hawaii in this one, man. Plus the points. It seems like the market's agreeing with me. Arkansas down to 15.5 here. 57% of tickets on them, 51% of the cash on Hawaii. So the money is coming back in on the Hawaii side. That's what we're going to do here, man. Yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot else to say about it, but I think Hawaii, definitely it's like one of the teams that's being very overlooked in this tournament, I will say. So we'll do it. We'll take Hawaii in that one. Do I think Arkansas is actually going to lose? Probably not. But also, I guess we have to worry the total is a bit high because it's an Arkansas game. They play fast. Hawaii also plays fast, so that's one issue. Like, I would like it better if Hawaii slowed the game down, but I do like the fact they have the better defense. But, they'll probably run with Arkansas, and that is what Arkansas wants to do. But maybe Arkansas will, run out of gas a little bit or something. Hawaii only has one extra day off, but even so, I mean, I think Hawaii does have a bit of a rest advantage there. All right. The 6-11 matchup as we start the evening slate here. We have North Carolina and VCU. VCU, I showed you guys the market read on this last night. VCU seems like a very trendy underdog pick here. They won the Atlantic 10. They did not have to face St. Louis during that tournament run. St. Louis did beat them both times. This is a good VCU team, but it seems like absolutely nobody wants North Carolina. And, they're one of those teams that qualifies as being a good team, I would say, that had a bad conference tournament. They got knocked out by Clemson. They almost came back and won that game. I told you I did like Clemson in that one. And this game is also in South Carolina, by the way. So it's not that horrible location for VCU either because they're a Virginia team coming in from D.C., but North Carolina, they just played in Charlotte, and now they're just going to South Carolina. It's a good location for North Carolina. Their crowd's going to show up for this. So I think they will have a crowd advantage here. And again, I think people are just overlooking them because of the Caleb Wilson injury and whatever. Yeah, he's the best player, but I think North Carolina can win this game. I mean, I don't think either one of these teams is going to be able to get by Illinois, but I'll lean towards North Carolina in this one. They're down to 2.5 here. The public looks like they are on VCU. 67% of tickets, only 65% of the cash. This is the thing, dude. March Madness, you get some public underdogs because everybody wants to pick the next Cinderella. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to be right about it. Everybody wants to pick the right underdog here. Yeah, VCU could win this game. I mean, it's a small spread. I'm not saying they can't win. But I just think they're one of those public underdogs that's too trendy, so I would lean in the other direction in that game. Okay. Howard and Michigan in the 16-1 game. Howard won the play-in game the other night. They looked good in doing so, and I think maybe they looked a little too good. They looked too impressive. Dude, I've heard people saying Howard is going to beat Michigan. That's not going to happen. Howard, yeah, I mean, they shredded their bad conference. They were in the MEAC. People think Howard is like, they must be awesome, man, because they beat UMBC. You know, UMBC, that team that won. If UMBC won 7 years ago as a 16 seed, that means, and Howard beat them now, that means Howard must be better than that 2018 UMBC team. No, that's not how it works. UMBC, that whole conference, the American East, was awful this year. The MEAC was bad. Both those conferences are really bad. No, Howard is not going to beat Michigan. This game is in Buffalo. Michigan will have fans there. I mean, that's not that much of a travel spot. Got to go through Canada to get there, but it's a decent location in Buffalo. Michigan, you know, they're coming off losing in the Big Ten tournament. I mean, they made it to the final. Didn't have a good game in the final, though, and lost as a favorite. So people are talking about how, Michigan is vulnerable, whatever. I don't know. I think Michigan's going to run away with this game. Now, the question is, do they really need to, though? Like, again, like with Duke, this is one of those games where you're probably going to have the game in hand, and then you can just kind of start looking ahead to the next game, you know what I mean? So Michigan probably not really incentivized to win by this huge margin here, even though they could. So it's a tough call. Howard, the advantage that they have is the fact that they played a game already. So when you have a game under your belt, you could shed the nerves. You're already kind of used to it, although, of course, Dayton, these teams aren't playing in Dayton now, right? So you have to play in another new venue. But when you've played already in the tournament, that is a little bit of an edge because you have a little bit of new momentum there. So Howard does have that edge a little bit, but we haven't really seen that matter that much in these 16-1 games. The money, believe it or not, is coming in on Michigan. Howard, 53% of the tickets, 68% of the cash on Michigan. Yeah, I mean, I would actually probably agree with laying the points with Michigan there, but there's no way I would actually do it. The next game up is my last play in college basketball for the day, and we are going to go with the play-in team having the advantage of having already played, and that's going to be Texas. We're going to take Texas plus 2.5 against BYU. This game is in Portland, Oregon, so I know it's not the greatest location for Texas. They're having to travel in from Dayton. BYU hasn't played since the Big 12 tournament, though, and they actually played decent in that game against Houston, if you remember correctly. BYU played close against Houston, but I always talk about how that can kind of set up a flat spot when a team's coming off playing really well as a big underdog. And, yeah, Houston pulled away at the end of that game, but it was only a 7-point final. BYU was still within, 4-6 points in the final couple minutes of that game. So BYU had a huge effort in that game. Now, yeah, they've had rest to kind of get over that, but I also don't know if rest is that helpful to BYU because they play offense. They don't really play defense. They rely on offensive timing. They like to try to run the floor, and I think that might be a problem coming off a lot of rest. Texas is going to try to slow them down. Texas is not a good defense. I know that. Both these defenses are bad. Texas is even worse, but Texas might slow BYU down and be able to throw them out of what they want to do. Texas plays half court and they get good shots. They're a very efficient shooting team. Very strange combo for Texas. But the other thing is nobody's going to be impressed by what Texas did the other night. The ACC is putting together a horrible showing already in the tournament. NC State looked awful against Texas. SMU looked bad last night. So nobody's going to, in fact, people are probably going to think less of Texas after seeing them play the other night. Horrible game. They looked awful. They won the game barely. They did have the lead for the majority of the game. They almost blew it at the end. People watching that game were like, I was watching and I was saying, this is terrible basketball. It's like the worst game I've ever seen. You know what I mean? But I think that means we should be looking towards Texas here because everybody saw them. They looked extremely unimpressive. They got the win. They got the game under their belt. So now They have some momentum. They got the nerves out of the way. I actually kind of like it, man. And there's a reason why BYU is not favored by that much here. And we know BYU is without Saunders, but I think that has more of an effect than any other injury that we've talked about in this tournament, which sounds crazy because he's not their best player. But BYU, their like metrics have fallen way down since he's been out because they turned from like a 3-headed offensive monster into like a 2-headed monster where it's easier to defend. And I know, again, Texas, not a good defense, but still. BYU, like, I don't know if those guys could, like, totally carry the load here. You know, whoever wins this game, I'm knocking them out in the next round of the bracket anyway. I don't think they're going to get by Gonzaga. But, yeah, we'll go with Texas in this one. I picked them in my bracket as well. 62% of tickets, 53% of the cash on BYU. So BYU is a public side. People still like BYU. Again, people don't like these ugly, slow teams like Texas. The public never wants to play them. They like these up-tempo scoring teams. Oh, yeah, DeBonsa for BYU. He's an elite college player. Yeah, he is. But, again, that doesn't carry a team, right? Like, we've seen other elite players go down, like, immediately in tournaments, right? Like, you know, Kevin Durant with Texas. They never did well in the tournament, you know, et cetera. Like, stuff like that happens. You know what I mean? So we're going to take Texas. Speaking of Kevin Durant, we're taking his team, Texas, plus the points. Reed Hearted, what's up, man? No. All right. Next game is, so that's a 6-11 game there. Next is a 10-7, Texas A&M and St. Mary's, which is going to be in Oklahoma City. So, yeah, the location probably does help Texas A&M a little bit, but I still like St. Mary's in this game. St. Mary's, they got more experience. They got the more experienced coach with Randy Bennett. And they play a style that Texas A&M does not want to run into. Texas A&M, they have a new coach this year, Bucky, whatever the fuck. Fucky. They play Bucky ball, fucky ball, which means, yeah, they play fast. And that's not what St. Mary's is going to do. St. Mary's slows the game way down. They find good shots. And, in fact, they've been a very good three-point shooting team this year. They rebound pretty well. They play good defense. Texas A&M is actually good on defense, believe it or not. They're a pretty balanced team, but running into a slow-paced team is not what they want to do, man. Texas A&M was not what they looked like at the beginning of the season when they were leading the SEC. I was telling you they were going to fall off a bit, and in fact, they fell all the way almost out of the tournament. Now, that might motivate them a little bit, like, hey, we got to get our shit together. We're in the tournament. A&M didn't have a good showing in the Big 12 tournament. But I don't know if I consider them to be like one of those good teams that's just going to bounce back from that. You know what I mean? St. Mary's didn't do what they wanted to do in their conference tournament either, right? Like, they lost to Santa Clara. I gave you guys Santa Clara as a winner in that game on the show. So, you know, they might be ready for this to bounce back here in this one. I like the matchup for St. Mary's here, man, and the amount of experience they have. A&M seems like they're a bit of a... I don't want to say they're a public underdog, but it seems like more people than not kind of are picking this, you know, picking Texas A&M in this one, because I think it's because, oh yeah, Texas A&M power conference team. And while a lot of times I do agree with that, like, oh yeah, if you see like a lower seed, like in like a 6-11, whatever, like we just saw with Texas, and they're actually a power conference team, that is worth a look just in general. To pull that, like, you know, seed upset or whatever. It would be, you know, an upset on the spread as well for Texas there, but because you know that you're getting like a battle-tested team, you know what I mean, if they're from one of those power conferences. Now, yeah, I know St. Mary's is not from one of those power conferences, but they're still, you know, they have a lot of experience in doing what they're doing here. They're a team that has a lot of guys that came back too, so I think they're one of the more continuous teams. I can look real quick. You guys should buy Ken Bum, though. Only like 25 a year or something. They're not as good as I thought. They're 121st in continuity, St. Mary's, but in this day and age, I mean, I don't know. That's not that bad. 55% of tickets, 72% of the cash on St. Mary's. That's the amount of like returning minutes that they have on their team this year from like the previous year and years past. The money is agreeing with me on St. Mary's there. That is the way I would look. Laying points, you know, with a slow-paced team, you know, a little bit iffy, but I tried to do it last year and lost, if you guys remember. St. Mary's against Vandy last year, but St. Mary's did something I didn't think they'd be able to do. They came back from a huge deficit in that game. Didn't cover, but they actually won the game somehow. And this matchup seems similar to that, right? Like they're facing a fast-paced SEC team that is, you know, in a position they haven't really exactly been in before. And I know you might be saying, what are you talking about? A&M's been in the tournament the last couple of years. I know, but that was with a different coach, a completely different system where A&M played a slow style. So this is like almost, you could consider this to be basically a new team. So this does remind me of that Vandy St. Mary's game where St. Mary's was also, that was a 7-10 game as well. I think St. Mary's might have been the 10 though. I forget. Maybe they were the 7. I forget. Either way, yeah, it's not going to be a play for me this time, but I agree with St. Mary's in that one. All right. Penn and Illinois, I mean, this is ridiculous. Illinois is an elite team, and Penn, like, shouldn't even be in the tournament, man. I know Penn was able to get those miracle threes from TJ Power to beat Yale there. It seems like Power might actually not even play in this game today. It seems like he's injured, so I don't even know if he's going to play. And Penn is already without one of their other best players. So needless to say, I do not like Penn in this game. I think they're actually probably overseeded, to be honest. Like, they're significantly worse than Yale, dude. And I know Yale looked bad in the NIT. They were in a bad spot. I mean, Yale wanted to be in this tournament. They should have been. I don't think Penn has a shot in this game. Illinois is up to a 25.5-point favorite here. 53% of tickets on Penn, 59% of the cash on Illinois. It is a huge number, though. You know, I'd lean towards laying it with Illinois. I can't quite get there with it, but Penn, you know, they're coming off that miracle win against Yale. They're just happy to be here, which I guess means they can play loose. But Illinois is coming off not a great performance against Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament, losing as a favorite there. So Illinois might be one of those teams that I do consider to be a very good team that could bounce back from kind of an early-ish conference tournament exit. A lot of times you'll see those teams do that. Location-wise, this game is in South Carolina, so that doesn't really help either team necessarily. But yeah, I kind of like Illinois in that one. Illinois will be coming in from Chicago there. St. Mary's, by the way, coming into their game in Oklahoma City from Vegas. A&M had just been in Nashville prior to that. Yeah, and then BYU is having to go to Portland from Kansas City, by the way. So, you know, and Texas having to come in from Dayton. So, I mean, the travel spot in that one's a little bit odd as well. You know, Michigan, by the way, I forgot to mention they were in Chicago for the Big Ten tournament, and now they're going to Buffalo. And Howard is coming in from Dayton in that game, as I already mentioned. All right. Kyle, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. All right. The 9-8 matchup for the right to play Michigan is going to be St. Louis and Georgia. Georgia being the 8th seed. This game is in Buffalo, so that's I would say that's not really that helpful. And I keep saying DC, by the way, for these 8-10 teams. That's not right. They were in Pittsburgh. So VCU is going down to South Carolina from Pittsburgh. My mistake. Now, that's interesting, though, because if St. Louis stayed in the Pittsburgh area, that is a really quick travel leg from Pittsburgh to Buffalo. You know what I mean? And Georgia's coming in from Nashville, whatever. Now, Georgia, you know, they didn't look that good in the SEC tournament. They lost to Ole Miss, I believe, in their run in the tournament there. Georgia, the thing about them is they go super fast and they don't play defense. 84th in defense. And that's where St. Louis does have an edge here. Even though Ken Baum has St. Louis a little bit worse than them now because they fell off a cliff towards the end of the season. Georgia is the better offense. There's no question about that. Both teams go super fast. Both teams are pretty lucky, according to Ken Baum, with St. Louis being more lucky, though. But St. Louis has the better defense, dude, and they're the better defense getting points here. They're 40th in defense compared to Georgia, 84th. So there is a pretty significant defensive difference there with St. Louis. I think in this case, the public might kind of be eyeing the SEC team here and liking that super, you know, fast-paced scoring team like Georgia here. St. Louis, you know, they look so bad down the stretch. I think people won't want them. They might be another one of those teams that kind of qualifies as, hey, this is a good team, and they didn't really look that good in their conference tournament. You know what I mean? They haven't looked good for a while now. But some of their losses are explainable because they were in like bad spots and whatever. I think they just kind of hit a lull. They might be able to turn it on again and use this tournament setting as a reset. You know, like they were supposed to be like a 5-6 seed potentially in the tournament for a while. Now they're falling all the way down to a 9 seed. They have the ability to turn it back on, man, and become what they were early in the season. 57% of tickets, 65% of the cash on St. Louis. I'll lean to taking the points with St. Louis in that one, but, you know, I don't really have that strong of an opinion on it, though. So that's just a lean. Everything else here are just leans. The 3-14 matchup in the West region, Gonzaga and Kennesaw State. I saw this matchup, and I was like, man, Gonzaga got such a good matchup here because Kennesaw likes to go fast, and Gonzaga likes to go fast. It's basically all offense here, but Gonzaga actually plays defense too, and Kennesaw doesn't. I don't see Kennesaw having a shot in this game at all. I saw this draw, and I'm like, yeah, Gonzaga got a really good draw here. Like, I think they have a really good shot to make the Sweet 16, even though I'm not that high on them. They look like they're going to be without Braden Huff still, who is one of their best players. They have been playing without him for a long time. But obviously, if he comes back, it'll help them. They're not going to need him in this game, though. The game's in Portland, Oregon, too, which is very advantageous to Gonzaga. Their crowd can come in from Washington, you know. Kennesaw is a Georgia team having to go all the way out there. Like, there are just so many advantages to Gonzaga in this one, man. Gonzaga won the West Coast Conference again, but they do that every year, so they're not going to be, like, totally hyped up by that, I don't think, or whatever. They just last played in Vegas, so they're staying in the Pacific time zone. Kennesaw just last played in, I don't know, wherever the hell their conference tournament was, Conference USA. It was in some weird place. I think that one was in Alabama, I think. Whatever it was. And that's what I should have remembered. South Florida played in Birmingham, Alabama for their tournament. Anyway, I would lay the points with Gonzaga here, man. It's a bad matchup for Kennesaw. I mean, they weren't the best team in their own conference. They're a super fast-paced team. Now they run into a fast-paced team that just does it way better than they do and actually plays defense. Yeah, I don't think Kennesaw has a chance. Gonzaga, 21-point favorite, up from 18.5, so the money has come in on that side. If you want Gonzaga, you have lost a little bit of value there, though. 52% of the tickets are on Kennesaw, 66% of the cash on Gonzaga, though, so the money coming in on Gonzaga in that one. And then to finish it off, it's a 15-2 game between Idaho and Houston in Oklahoma City. Houston, they get to play not that far away, really, from Houston. Coming in from Kansas City. It's a decent location for Houston. Idaho won the Big Sky. They got to come in here from playing in Boise, Idaho. A little bit of a weird travel spot there. Houston, though, they could be in a bit of a flat spot here, man, because they ran all the way to the Big 12 championship and came pretty close against Arizona in that game. So Houston's coming off a huge game against Arizona. So I could see them being a little bit flat coming into this game. And Houston plays slow, remember. They're a slow, defense-oriented team. And asking them to cover a big number like this with a really low total in the 130s is where this total is at. Where are they at? Houston. Yeah, 138. I would take the points with Idaho in this one. Houston up to minus 23.5, 81% of tickets on them, only 78% of the cash. Idaho, I think they're a bit overlooked. I mean, they're not that bad. They're one of the top 4 teams, I believe, in the Big Sky, even though they got the 7 seed in that tournament. Don't be fooled by that because they're one of the better defenses in that conference. They're not a bad team. In a slow-paced game, I think they can hang around at least within this huge number. I'm not going to say they're going to be close to winning the game or anything, but I would take the points in that one if I was going to do it, plus Houston being in a bit of a flat spot. Out of the games here that I didn't put on my card, I'm going to be honest. I think that one actually might be next, to be honest. Idaho plus the points. Because, again, Houston, I don't love the spot there for them. All right, and that's it for the college basketball, man. We're going to go to NHL. I'm going to take a break real quick here. We have way too much NHL to talk about. And then NBA. There isn't much NBA, and I'm completely skipping NBA. I have one NHL play for you here. If you know how I handicap, you probably already know what it is, but I'll be right back. All right. Let's see. NHL here. Let's go. Whoops. All right. First game up. It's all evening games here. Winnipeg at my Boston Bruins. Winnipeg, they're coming off losing to Nashville. Not a great performance from them there. Day off here. They're starting a road trip. I talk about this. When teams start road trips, a lot of times they will be focused to start the road trip. So I think it's an okay spot for Winnipeg here. For the Bruins, I don't like the spot. They're returning home from a road trip. So, I talk about this. When teams return home from road trips, I don't think it's the greatest spot. It was a shorter road trip where they stayed in the Eastern time zone, though. Only a 3-game road trip, so it's not the worst. But still, you got to get back to home life, whatever. They're coming off a big game against their rival, Montreal, where they fell short in overtime. And they have a big game against Detroit on deck, which is Saturday on ABC. So a little bit sandwichy here. I mean, this one isn't on my card, but close, I would say. The money's coming in on the Bruins, and I don't agree with that. I don't understand that at all. I like Winnipeg in this one. Bruins down from minus 145 to minus 136. 68% of tickets, 92% of the cash on them. That doesn't make any sense to me. Everything that I do as far as situational handicapping would put me on Winnipeg in that one, and that one close to making my card. Islanders at Ottawa. Islanders just beat Toronto. I mean, whatever. Toronto not having a good season. They have momentum at least coming into this. They're a decently rested team. Potential they look ahead to Montreal because Montreal is having a good season. Ottawa is coming up a pretty ugly loss to Washington. But they did that yesterday, so they are on a back-to-back here. But they did have 2 days off prior to yesterday, so they're not going to be totally unrested, I don't think. Tough call in this one. I don't like the game at all. Money coming in on the Islanders. Ottawa down from minus 145 to minus 130. 78% of tickets, 90% of the cash coming in on the Islanders. I slightly lean towards Ottawa, even though they are on the back-to-back here. I think they're still rested enough. You got to keep in mind, though, Ullmark played yesterday, so it won't be him in net. It's going to be Reimer, although he actually was good in the last game. And I would say he's been good recently, too. They won his last 2 starts, and the start before that was a 4-3 loss to Carolina. I'm not really going to blame him for that. For some reason, they keep throwing him in these Carolina games. I don't know. So I don't think it's that bad for Ottawa there if he plays. Montreal at Detroit. Montreal just beat the Bruins. Good win for Montreal there. Rivalry win, but they're not going to overlook Detroit, I wouldn't imagine. Detroit's having a good season. Detroit just beat Calgary. I don't think they're going to overlook this game either, so I think you will get focus out of both teams here. Detroit is staying at home with more time off, so they do have a little bit of an advantage in that regard. Montreal looks like they're getting the money sort of right now. 50% of tickets, 58% of the cash on them. No line movement. Montreal at minus 110 there. This one, yeah, really, really tough call here. Montreal's been good on the road. They're 18-7-8 on the road. Detroit good at home, 19-11-3 at home. Yeah, both teams, good stuff from both teams. And now it's a very, very difficult call. I think I would slightly lean to Detroit. Better travel and rest spot there, but no strong opinion there. Rangers at Columbus. Rangers, you know, the good thing for them is they get to play on the road here, but they aren't a back-to-back. They lost horribly last night at home to New Jersey. What else is new? The Rangers lost at home again to the Devils. Having to deal with that. I won't play the David Putty thing again, but I did play the Seinfeld scene there with them at the Rangers Devils game there. Bad performance from the Rangers. It's a back-to-back. Having to travel to Columbus, very strange spot, but maybe they will try to bounce back because that loss was just so ugly last night. Columbus, they just killed Carolina on Tuesday. Now, they're staying at home, but they might just be kind of basking in that win. That was such a good win over Carolina. I like the Rangers in this game, man, even though they're on the back-to-back. That's the only way I would play this game. Columbus, this is how bad it is for the Rangers now. Columbus is minus 220. Oh, my God. 95% of tickets, 97% of the cash on Columbus. I would go like Rangers puck line in this one, man. I hesitate just because of travel from New York to Columbus with no time off is a little bit weird, but the Rangers are way better on the road. I think they're in a bounce-back spot. Columbus in a letdown spot, and you will get Shesterkin in net, I'm pretty sure, for the Rangers. I'm pretty sure Quick played last night, so you will get their better goalie here. Rangers 19-15-2 on the road, not that bad. Columbus pretty good at home, though. 18-8-7 at home. So, you know, that one's not on my card, but that one actually is close to being on my card as well. Chicago at Minnesota on Hulu. These two teams just played, and Chicago lost at home in overtime, I think. Yeah, so Chicago might take, Minnesota might take Chicago more seriously now that Minnesota just lost, just almost lost to Chicago. They might take them more seriously, but Chicago lost at home. You know they're not going to overlook Minnesota here, even though they do have Colorado next. Minnesota actually might have more of a tendency to overlook the game because they did wind up getting the win, and they do have Dallas up next. So the zigzag could potentially still lean towards Chicago in this one, man. Even though initially I was like, well, Minnesota will take them seriously because they almost lost to them. But with Dallas on deck for them, maybe not. And the fact that Minnesota did win the game on the road, maybe they'll think, hey, this will be easy. We'll beat them again at home. Minnesota down from minus 250 to minus 228. 94% of tickets, 84% of the cash on them. So the public on Minnesota, less than the money on them. I agree with Chicago in that one on the puck line, I guess is what it would be. But that one doesn't make my card. This next game is the one that does. This is the last play I'm giving out on the show. We're going to take the Seattle Kraken on the money line here against Nashville. I think this is a bad spot for Nashville. They're returning home from a road trip. And, you know, I talk about it every day pretty much. When a team's returning home from a road trip, this one, they've been on the road since March 7th. They had to go all the way up to basically the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, they did. Including, by the way, beating Seattle in Seattle. So this is a quick road revenge angle for Seattle as well. Now Nashville's returning home from all that. And again, when you return home, you might overlook your opponent, especially if you just beat them on the road trip. Got to get back to home life, whatever. Nashville has Vegas on deck. Vegas is a better team than Seattle, so they might be looking ahead to that. Meanwhile, Seattle is starting a road trip and coming off a pretty ugly loss, I would say, even though it was to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's good, but Seattle losing 6-2 at home. I think they're going to be happy to just leave home, go out on the road, focus on hockey, you know what I mean? So this is another one of those spots where you have a team starting a road trip against a team returning home from a road trip, plus it's road revenge in the mix there, plus Nashville has the look ahead here. I like Seattle. I think it's a bounce back spot. I think they will have Decord back in net because Grubauer played their last game. Decord, things haven't been good for Seattle at all recently, but he is still their better goalie. So that's what we're doing. We're going with Seattle. The money seems like it's agreeing with me here. Nashville down from minus 135 to minus 132. 50% of tickets, 99% of the cash on Seattle. So the money seems like it's agreeing with me on Seattle. That is the way we're going there. Then we have Florida at Edmonton in the Stanley Cup rematch here, whatever you want to call it. Edmonton beat Florida during the regular season already, so they did get a little bit of revenge, but they're still going to show up for a game against Florida. I think Florida will show up as well, though. Florida off of 2 ugly losses on the road trip here, including getting smacked by Vancouver. That is not a good loss at all. Losing 5-2. I think maybe they were looking ahead to Edmonton here. Edmonton, I think they might have been looking ahead to this too in the last game, but they still won against San Jose. Big game for both teams. Difficult read in this one. Edmonton, the money is coming in their way, up from minus 145 to minus 157. 80% of the tickets, 97% of the cash on Edmonton. I actually slightly lean towards Florida because they're coming off an uglier loss, and they did lose to Edmonton the only time they played this year, so they might be looking for the more recent revenge, although I don't know how much that really matters. Revenge definitely can be overused, you know what I mean? And Edmonton still wants to beat Florida, right? Because you can't even really get revenge for losing back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, Like, you'd have to beat them twice in the Stanley Cup finals to get revenge for that. So Edmonton is still going to show up, too. Tampa Bay at Vancouver. Vancouver coming off that nice win over Florida, like I said. Tampa Bay just crushed Seattle. They do have Edmonton on deck, so it's possible Tampa Bay looks right past Vancouver here. Vancouver, though, again, coming off that big win over Florida, might be in a little bit of a letdown mode here because that was a big win, but they're not going to overlook Tampa Bay. There is the possibility Tampa does look past this game. Tampa Bay up from minus 285 to minus 291. 95% of the tickets, only 92% of the cash. Tampa Bay is a public, very heavy road favorite. I would probably lean towards Vancouver on like a puck line there, but I don't love it. Then the second game in the Hulu doubleheader is Utah at Vegas. Utah having a decent season. They just beat Dallas 6-3 on the road. So for Utah, they could be in a letdown spot after that. But that did break a losing streak for them. So sometimes when you break a losing streak, you will carry that momentum. They've had a couple of days off. I don't think they're going to overlook Vegas, but beating Dallas is huge for Utah. For Vegas, they just got shut out at home by Buffalo. So they should be in a bounce-back spot. They have one fewer day off, but they're staying at home off a pretty ugly shutout loss. Buffalo's pretty good. Now, the one thing is, though, that was a close game. It was a 1-0 game late. I think there was an empty net goal in that game. So Vegas did almost beat Buffalo, but even so, I think I would still lean to Vegas in this game. The money's not agreeing with me, though. Vegas down from minus 145 to minus 130. 60% of tickets, 87% of the cash on Utah. So the money is saying Utah, but I slightly disagree. Buffalo at San Jose. Buffalo, like I said, they did just get that shutout win at Vegas. That was a good win for Buffalo. Now they got to go to San Jose. They did just beat San Jose at home not that long ago, 6-3, so they might not totally take San Jose seriously here, although they only have LA on deck. San Jose returning home from a road trip, though, so that's a problem. They did lose to Buffalo to start the road trip, so maybe they won't overlook Buffalo here, plus Buffalo having a good season. But still, you got to take into account the fact that San Jose went all the way to the East Coast, Eastern Canada, then came back and played Edmonton in their last game. And now they're returning home from all that. They've been away for more than a week. So, a lot of times it's a bad spot when teams return home from road trips, long road trips especially. They could be at a disadvantage. They get a little bit distracted. That game, by the way, they were within one goal in the middle of the third period in that game against Edmonton. So I can't get on board with San Jose in that game. The money is coming in that way. Buffalo is at minus 145. 67% of tickets on them. 71% of the cash on San Jose. So big ticket versus cash disparity in the market there, but there's no way it could come in on San Jose in that return home spot. I just can't do that. In fact, I might even lean in the other direction towards Buffalo, to be honest, because that's just such a bad spot typically in these daily sports. And then we have Philadelphia at LA. Philadelphia, the only winner that we had last night on the show, won in overtime, and now they're on a back-to-back, but they're only going from Anaheim to LA, and they had 3 days off prior to the Anaheim game, so they shouldn't be that unrested, but it looks like it will be the case. They're going to go to Urson in net here, though they actually won his last couple of games, so maybe that's not that bad of a thing. I don't like Philadelphia's goaltending in general. LA coming into this game, beating the Rangers and returning home from a road trip, and that's not good. They've been on the road since March 9th. They went out to the East Coast. Now they're flying cross country. They do have 2 days off, but a lot of times you'll get distracted in that return home spot. I think they're going to be potentially even looking ahead to Buffalo because Buffalo has been a better team than Philadelphia. So even though Philadelphia's on the back-to-back, I like Philadelphia in this game. LA, as you know, because I talk about it all the time, they're not very good at home either. 10, 15, and 7 at home. Very, very bad. Philly, not bad on the road. 17, 12, and 4. That's not horrible. So, yeah, the home road splits definitely favor Philadelphia here as well. Philadelphia, even though they're on the back-to-back, like I said, they're rested and they're already in the Western or Pacific time zone there, only traveling like 30 miles up the road or whatever. So I don't know why the money's on LA here. They're up to minus 170, 50-50 on the tickets, 99% of the cash on LA. Some of it might be because of the back-to-back that Philly's in, but the spot is awful for LA. I like Philadelphia in that game. Won't put it on my card, but that's the way that I lean there. Then we got NBA. Before I get out of here, we have, I don't know, about 9 NBA games here maybe. NBA TV has the first game up, Orlando and Charlotte. Orlando coming off a pretty close call against the Thunder in their last game, so they could potentially be in a hangover spot here. They're playing a fourth game in 6 days, all in different cities. That's not easy to do. Only lost by 5 at home to the Thunder, and I think it was a pretty close game at the end of it, so could be a bit of a hangover there. Charlotte is coming up a very satisfying blowout win over Miami, though. Miami did not have Bam Adebayo in that game, but even so, Charlotte just destroyed them, and now they're staying at home, maybe feeling a bit high on themselves. Tough call in this game. The money's coming in towards the Magic for what that's worth. The Hornets are 5.5, 73% of tickets, only 58% of the cash on the Hornets. There's no way I could play Orlando, though, after that, that game against the Thunder where they played pretty well. Wagner looks like he's on the verge of coming back for Orlando, but it won't be tonight. Not yet. The market read is saying Orlando. I don't have really an opinion one way or the other there. Detroit at Washington. This game just was played. They're playing each other again here. Now, Detroit, they were like 19-point favorites at Washington, and they only won by 13 the last time. And now you'll notice Detroit is only a 14.5 point favorite this time. 72% of tickets, 79% of the cash on them. That's because Cade Cunningham is being rested for this game. So that's why the line is different in this game. Just keep that in mind. Still, Detroit might not take Washington seriously after beating them in the last game. They got Golden State, LA on deck, the Lakers, so those are bigger games. I'd probably lean towards taking the points with Washington here. Maybe they'll show some form of effort, which I think they really kind of did in their last game, and it still wasn't good enough. But we'll see. You're getting less value now, though, because Cunningham is out, but I'm not looking to lay the points in that one. Lakers at Miami. The Lakers got another win over Houston last night. I'm pissed about it. The Lakers, again, it was a misleading result again in the final there because the Lakers couldn't miss, man. They shot 60% from the field, like 50% from 3. Absolutely ridiculous. Probably not going to happen again here. They're playing a fourth game in 6 days. Not all in different cities because the last 2 were in Houston, but still, now having to go to Miami with no time off, I don't like the spot here for the Lakers. Miami coming off that blowout loss to Charlotte without Adebayo, of course. They're back home here now after the 1 game on the road there. Adebayo, game time decision tonight. He's probable, so he's going to play. I think they just rested him pretty much in their last game. I like the Heat in this game, man. The Lakers, I'm still not buying it. Heat up to 3.5. This is one of the better. This is probably the strongest lean in the NBA today, to be honest. I would lay it with the Heat. Plus, at least you know it's more of a clean handicap, right? Because these two teams are still fighting for playoff positioning and whatever. So you know you're going to get effort. Like, you don't have to worry about these teams not putting in effort. You know what I mean? 60% of tickets, 85% of the cash on the Heat. But, I mean, we're still trying to find teams that might not put in as big of an effort, though. You know what I mean? And that might be the Lakers here after those huge Western Conference wins. So, yeah, I like the Heat in that one for sure. My strongest opinion probably of the NBA board here. Cleveland at Chicago. Cleveland beat Milwaukee a couple nights ago. Don't know if Giannis was in that game or not, but it was only a 7-point win. Now they're going to Chicago. Chicago really let us down on the show last night, but Toronto was another team that really couldn't miss last night, man. I'm pissed about it. The money actually wound up agreeing with me on that game. Didn't matter. Chicago now on a back-to-back after that, but they are staying at home, and they did get blown out in that game. So, I mean, maybe they'll put in an effort against a team like Cleveland. I don't know, man. I wouldn't want to lay it, probably. Cleveland minus 13, but the money looks like it is coming in on Cleveland. 66% of tickets, 99% of the cash on them. I'm staying away, of course. I don't love any of it, really. Clippers are at New Orleans. This is a spot that, you know, where they're playing a second game in a row here. This game just happened, and I told you I liked the Pelicans. That was last night. The Pelicans won by 15. Very nice win for the Pelicans. But remember, the Clippers are coming off a huge game against San Antonio. So now that they lost to New Orleans, the Clippers might flip it around and flip the script and zigzag this one, man. Because when you have the better team basically losing the game, a lot of times you do want to look to them to bounce back. And I believe, I thought Kawhi Leonard wasn't going to play in that game, but I guess he did. So I don't know if he's playing in this game or not. It looks like he is. He's not even listed as injured now. So I think we will get Kawhi Leonard in this one. Batum didn't play yesterday. I don't know if he's going to play tonight or not. I don't know how much that matters, really. But New Orleans is around the same size favorite here, 1.5. They were a 2-point favorite in the last game, which, again, it does look weird that the Pelicans are a favorite like that. So that's why I said another reason to like the Pelicans in the first game last night was it was a very fishy line there. Like, why would the Pelicans be favored? Fishy, because that's what Pelicans eat, man. But now I would zigzag it this time, man, even though it does look like a fishy line again. You'll see, well, the Pelicans won last night, so they could do it again, right? I don't think that's the case. I like the Clippers this time, to take them more seriously this time. 67% of tickets on the Pelicans, 53% of the cash on the Clippers. I would lean to the Clippers there. Phoenix at San Antonio, pretty good game. Phoenix, you know, having a decent season here. San Antonio, very good, though. Phoenix coming off a couple losses. This is like weird travel for them, remember. They had to go to Boston, then Minnesota with no time off. They lost both those games. Now they're traveling with 1 day off, going to San Antonio. Third game in 4 days, all in different cities. Yeah, they're going to get up for a game against San Antonio, but it's a weird travel spot, man. San Antonio is returning from the Pacific Coast, though, and they're playing a third game in 4 days as well in different cities. And they're coming off an easy game against Sacramento. They're going to have to step it up for this game against the Suns. Spurs are a 10-point favorite here. They're public, of course, 81% of the tickets, only 68% of the cash. So it looks like the money is kind of leaning towards the Suns in this one. I'm not going to disagree with it. I don't have a strong opinion on the game. The market is saying Suns, so do with that information what you want. Dillon Brooks still out for the Suns, by the way. It looks like he'll be out for a couple more games there. So something to keep in mind. Milwaukee at Utah. Milwaukee just lost to Cleveland. Now, if I remember correctly, Giannis didn't play in that game. Am I right about that? I think I am. So Milwaukee had a decent 7-point loss at home without Giannis. I believe Giannis is not going to be back for this game. I think he remains out here. Let me see. Yeah, he's out until the 28th, according to this. But it looks like Utah, we know they have injury issues, but Markkanen, who's one of their best players, I think he's probably not playing tonight, even though he's listed as a game-time decision. I don't think he's going to play. I don't think he's played for a while, in fact. So I think we're going to have no Giannis and no Markkanen in this game, so something to keep in mind. Milwaukee coming off a decent performance, though, against Cleveland, so they could be in a bit of a hangover spot after that, even though a lot of times you will show up focused in your first game of a road trip, usually, but Milwaukee just beat Utah by double digits at home. They got Phoenix on deck, who they lost to at home after that, not that long ago, so they might be looking ahead to Phoenix. Phoenix, the better team anyway. And coming off that big game against Cleveland where they stepped it up without Giannis, first game without Giannis in a while. Now this is his second game out. Going into elevation, I don't like how it sets up for Milwaukee, man. I don't. I like Utah here. Utah is returning home from a road trip, so I don't love that. Although it was less than a week, but they did go to the Pacific Coast, then Minnesota. They got absolutely drilled by Minnesota in their most recent game, though, so maybe they will show you something, in kind of a quick revenge spot, if you want to call it that, adjustment spot. I like the Jazz here, but the market is really hard to read because the Bucks flipped from a 2-point dog to a 5.5-point favorite. I think probably because of the Markkanen injury news. I don't really know. 57% of tickets, 56% of the cash on the Jazz. So the public looks like they're on the Jazz. I don't really even buy that. Why would the public be on the Jazz? I don't understand that. I think I would take the extra value there and take the points with Utah in that one. And then we have Philadelphia at Sacramento. Of course, we know Philadelphia playing basically without a team right now. They just got killed in Denver. Maybe this will be easier, at least going to Sacramento. So maybe they will bounce back. Sacramento just got killed at home by San Antonio. How much effort are you going to get out of Sacramento here? That's what you have to try to gauge because they're a very injured team as well. They're just playing out the stretch basically without all their best players. I don't know what we're going to get in this game at all. Sixers are a 3-point favorite here. 55% of the tickets on them. 92% of the cash coming in on the Kings. So the money is coming in on the Kings. I don't really know exactly why, but just keep that in mind. Of course, again, the Sixers is still without all of their starters, basically. It looks like Embiid is questionable. Well, he's doubtful now, so he's not playing tonight either still. So no George, no Maxey, no Oubre, no Embiid. For the Kings, Monk is questionable, so he might come back for them. He is, with the injuries that they have, he is like one of their best players that's actually playing. So something to keep in mind there, I guess. That's going to do it, man. That's the rundown for today. The plays, one more time, in college basketball, we have Hawaii plus the points. Man, that one seems really, really difficult to do. But when it seems really difficult, sometimes it's right. And then Texas plus the points. Hockey, we're going with the Kraken on the money line. That's going to do it. Happy official March Madness Day, everyone. Official start to the first round of the tournament. These Thursday, Friday, it's the craziest college basketball days of the year, basically, as far as, But yeah, it's the madness. Like, what else do you want? Debatably, it's less crazy than some of those conference tournament days and whatever, but, I love it. Like, I used to take it off from work just to focus on basketball in these couple of days. So let's do it. Let's get some wins today. I'm going to take a little rest. I'm going to finalize my bracket. I'll probably link to my bracket and go watch my bracket. Show yourself time for that too. I'll probably link to my bracket in the show description there and whatever. I don't know if I'm going to change anything at this point, but yeah, I mean, you'll see what my bracket looks like, and hopefully it'll do all right. That's going to do it. I appreciate it, guys. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, subscribe here so you get the notifications. Boost this channel up. Listen on audio as well. Review on audio. Apple, Spotify. That helps me out. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube, so you can check that out. What else? Patreon.com/LearnToToad. I'm like, what are my plugs? I don't know. Patreon.com/LearnToToad. You can support me there. Looks like my screensaver on my TV is on, so that's awesome. And then Losercast, of course, every Tuesday night. You can check that show out, too. That's going to do it. Peace, guys.